Hello, everyone. I believe we are live. As you know, I need to wait a few seconds to make sure that I can see it on YouTube. So give me a second. Up there we are. We're definitely live. Let's see how many people we got. 127. Anyhow, yes, I see some of the chats, and already people are asking, is this just a catchy title? Am I just trying to get clicks? Am I actually going to hopefully help everyone out and tell them some good news? And the answer is a combination of, well, instead of yes and no, I'm going to say no and yes. I'm going to kind of tell you why you need to care about OGL 1.1. And thanks for subscribing. These might be coming up a lot, by the way, during the stream. And I am also then going to go through, and I've been talking to lawyers nonstop this week, contract lawyers, IP lawyers, as well as other companies who have been talking to their lawyers, and I will tell you what's going on. Now, the reason I decided to do this stream is because I needed to kind of vent, and I wanted to do a pre-recorded stream, but I'm bad at that. I'm actually really bad at those. I'm much better at these live streams and taking questions from the audience and interacting with people. So yeah, I have an IP lawyer, and actually what was going to happen is 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, 3 days ago, when I did my video with Alan, and this one here where myself, Mark, and Alan sat down, Alan Bushlow, who is my contract lawyer, and he went through it very, very carefully. We had several IP lawyers lined up, but they couldn't make the show because it was such short notice. But it will have them on future shows as well. And these IP lawyers are big. They're so big that they actually had to check to make sure that Hasbro wasn't their client. So these aren't like small firms. And they actually also are gamers. So they know this pretty well. So real quick, I'm just going to give a little bit of history real quick. I'm presuming everyone who's joining this has read every article, is fairly well versed at what's going on. I'm not going to waste a lot of time going into that, but real quick, on Wednesday, myself and Mark, we have a weekly show, and we talk about all things gaming. We do this every week at 2 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays, and this week I decided to talk about the new OGL. The thing was, I was really tired because I just came back from overseas and was jet lagged, and I was not going to do the show. I was so tired. I was like, ugh. But I did the show, and I can only imagine what would happen if I didn't. Because at 2:39 p.m., we got a leak. We got a leak that gave us information, key information about what's in OGL 1.1. We were the first ones to get it. We discussed it live on the air, and then the next day, actually, let me back up. What ended up happening is after that show, it was posted all over, the interwebs. It was on Reddit. It was on Twitter. It was in Ian World, and a lot of people didn't believe it. First of all, not everyone knew who myself and Mark is, because we're not huge names in the YouTube space. We're publishers. We're a little more old school, and we talk about, contracts, and we talk about what the OGL is, and we talk about how game mechanics work. Mark wrote Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I myself, my day job, I work with Fortune 500 companies, pretty much any company you could imagine I've worked with, and that's my day job. And, on the side, I publish books for Roll for Combat. Whoops, let me get it here. So, like this. And the reason we got the leak, because everyone's like, why were you getting it so, why were you getting this leak? Because you guys are so small. It's because we know everyone in the industry. I know a lot of people in the industry. Mark literally knows everyone, and he's worked with pretty much everyone. So he has a million contacts. Thank God, Gizmodo came out the next day and confirmed everything we stated. In fact, the language was exactly the same. And suddenly, everything changed. It went from, well, this is not real, there's no way this is real, to, okay, not only is this real, but holy moly, Gizmodo quoted word for word what we stated on our live show. I have since then had 5 independent people collaborate and confirm that this wording is correct. And I want to just say that why should you care? By the way, thank you everyone who's subscribing. Please like, please subscribe. I would normally thank everyone, and I might have to turn that off because it's got a little since this is wow. Thank you everyone. I will continue to cover this. I have amazing guests coming on the show in the near future, and these are people that are just legendary, developers that are going to come in and tell what they think of this. What was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. Oh, yes. You're wondering if the leak was intentionally done. It is not. I'll get into that. It was not intentional. In fact, I know for a fact it was not intentional because the OGL 1.1 was in fully executable contracts. Okay? I know this for a fact. And I know this from more than one person. So I want to put that rumor to rest. Like, that's actually one of the reasons I want to do this, is that there's been a lot of rumor, still a lot of speculation as to, like, okay, maybe it was put out as a gauge, maybe it was put out as a test, maybe they're doing. No, I know. I've been talking to a lot of people. I'm here to help answer questions and tell you what I know. Okay? So here's the thing. Why should you care? Because I hear a lot of people say, you know what? I don't care. I play Pathfinder. Well, let me tell you something. If you play Pathfinder, Pathfinder is under the OGL. Okay? The OGL, by the way, if everyone's wondering, what the hell is this OGL? What the heck are you guys talking about? Here's this, see that? That's the OGL. The back of every single book, and this is my book, and in every single book you have a page here that states what you're allowed to use in the open gaming license. And I actually am the one who edits this. I go through, I edit this. I actually see this all the time. I've edited like 30 of these. I was just editing one the other day for a new Battle Zoo Ancestries slimes that's coming out on Tuesday, by the way. So I know the language very, very well. So back to what I was saying, it's like, well, what do I care? Well, the OGL 1.1 is supposed to retroactively revoke 1.0a, which is the one that's in this book. If they revoke it, that means that I have to now abide by 1.1. And there's a lot of horrible things in there. Now, let's just go one step further. Say, you know what? I don't play Pathfinder. I don't care. I play a game that was out 20 years ago that, yeah, it's OGL. Who cares? It's 20 years old. Well, guess what? If you ever want to buy that game again, now it is under OGL 1.1, and WoTC can just decide to take it down, especially if the companies don't exist anymore. They can say, well, according to OGL 1.1, by default, 1.0a, because the company doesn't exist anymore, we retroactively remove that, and 1.1 allows us to now own that content, and you know what? We don't want to sell that anymore. It's gone. Let's go one step further. Here's the crazy one. I don't care. I don't play anything that deals with OGL, okay? I just play on Foundry, my own system that I invented that doesn't have anything to do with OGL. Well, guess what? WoTC is coming for Foundry. WoTC is coming for every single VTT that's not theirs. And how can they do that? Well, very simple. They are trying to enforce 1.1, which covers digital tools and assets. And they're going to say, you can no longer run anything that has 1.0a in it, or in this case, 1.1. You can't run any OGL game because it's ours, and we retroactively removed it. So therefore, if you want to continue to run games, you, Foundry, and anyone else, you can run games, but none of them can have the OGL in them. How long are these companies going to stay in business if that's true? Okay? Think about that. Now, I know this sounds insane, but that is what they're trying to do. Things like Call of Cthulhu, yeah, that's was it BRP, not OGL? It doesn't matter. I'll tell you why. Yes, if you want to run Call of Cthulhu in your own house, no problem. But if you want to run Call of Cthulhu on Foundry, which they're going to try to shut down, well, you're not going to be able to. That's what's so insidious about this, is that they aren't trying to control OGL. They're trying to control all the tools, especially the digital tools, that distribute content throughout the internet. So if they shut down all the other VTTs, they shut down sites like Path Builder or anything online or any app that refers to OGL content, and they shut down your ability to kickstart anything that doesn't adhere to 1.1. They shut down your ability to distribute on DriveThruRPG. How can we survive as a hobby? The answer is we won't. It's all going to be controlled by WoTC. Now, this sounds insanely draconian, and you're probably saying to yourself, you are nuts, Steve. How is this possible? Well, I'm going to walk through how it is. And I'm going to also explain that there is good news, okay? First of all, before I get into that, we have band together, and one of the other reasons I'm doing this is that we are launching a site, and it has been launched right now, right before this video, and it is called OpenDND. Everyone should go to this. This is, you can go to OpenDND.Games, and this was created by Mike at Maychan Press. For those who don't know Mike. Maychan Press, a friend of mine, he does amazing stuff. They do great games, and he and I have been talking, and I signed this, and many other luminaries have signed this, and it basically, I won't go through the whole thing, but you should go to the site right now, OpenDND.Games, where we are going to make a stance and let Wizards of the Coast know. Man, I might have to turn that off. And let everyone know that we're not going to take it, and that we demand that they keep the OGL 1.0A. So, again, I can't even, it would take me hours to go into all the detail, but I'm going to go through and explain kind of the background of what's been going on, because I've been talking to a ton of people, and I've been thinking about it a lot, and that's why I kind of want to do this stream. By the way, if you have any questions, please, again, like, subscribe. If you super chat, I'll answer them right away. If you're a member of Roll for Combat, I'll answer them right away. I will try to answer all of them, but we have, I don't even know how many people we have in here now. Oh boy, 341. So I can't answer everything, and I'm by myself here. I know Mark is usually here with me, but I just wanted to do it. I was actually going to look for a couple of other people, but I just couldn't take it anymore, and I just threw this together real quick. So let's go through a little bit of a timeline. First of all, people are asking, was this deliberate? Like, could they really have done this on purpose? They being WoTC and Hasbro. Now, again, I'm just going to say, before I started, even after I started, these are just my opinions, and this is just what I have been able to collaborate and combine through all of my sources and efforts. However, I am going to tell you, and when you hear it all, hopefully it's all going to click in your head. So let's go back, okay? Let's go back and ask a very simple question. Why did WoTC and Hasbro decide to make Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition? And I'm not calling it 1D&D. I've decided none of us should call it that anymore, because it is 6th edition, okay? It's 6th edition. And I'm going to tell you why it's 6th edition. You see, Hasbro had this little thing called D&D Beyond, and D&D Beyond was making money, a lot of money. So much money that Hasbro decided that, you know what, we kind of goofed up and gave them too good of a license, and we want to, buy that out. And they wanted to buy it out. Now, Fandom has owned and operated D&D Beyond since 2019, and it was raking in millions of dollars, and it was very simple for them to make the money. It was basically just a online library platform. I mean, it's basically an online database. And someone who does this for a living, let me tell you, these things are very easy to build. And it just sat there making money. And the problem is that Fandom had no reason to sell this to WoTC because the license said that they can run D&D Beyond throughout the life of 5th edition. So they had no reason. So think about that. So how would they force Fandom to come to the table and sell it to them? Well, we're announcing 6th edition. You make a new edition, suddenly they have to renegotiate the contract, and suddenly Fandom has to sell to Hasbro. And that is what happened according to the rumors and speculation and people that I know. And this is not something new. People have heard this before. So what happened is they purchased, so back up. Hasbro decides we're going to make 6th edition, which means you can no longer use D&D Beyond, and we will invalidate the OGL. And so either sell it to us or it's going to have to come down. So what happens? Fandom sells D&D Beyond to Hasbro for $146 million. Okay, that's not like an insane amount of money. It's not billions, but for Hasbro, that's a fair amount of money. Oh yeah, I will sign the D&D Beyond link. Sorry, that's a good idea. I am by myself. There we go. So anyhow, so that is one of the main reasons that 6th edition was made, is so that they can start over. They can have a brand new 1D&D. They can start with a brand new OGL. They can just start everything over. Okay. So now think about this. I'm Hasbro. I just spent $146 million on an online VTT. Sure, they'll probably make some of that money back, but wouldn't you rather do something much bigger than that? So what do? You decide that we are going to take everything and sort of force it onto our 6th edition platform. So how do you do that? How do you force everyone to be using 1D&D? How do you force everyone to use all of their tools and their tool sets? Because OGL 1.0a, you know what? Anyone can use it. You don't have to. And on top of that, they want to make it backwards compatible with 5th edition. So why would anyone move over to a new edition? Well, they can't. There's no reason to. What's the incentive? There is no incentive. At least none that I can see. I mean, what is the incentive to move over to 6th edition, especially if it's backwards compatible? What is the incentive for me to publish something for 5th edition and 6th edition and Pathfinder? That's a lot of work, especially if it's backwards compatible. So you want to try to force everyone into the new ecosystem. Okay? So that is what you want to do. Oh, is the site down? Oh my God, did it actually crash this? Oh no, I see it. It's up. So the OpenDND.games. I'll keep linking it. There you go. So with that being said, let's get to some of the text. And let's look at some of the OGL text here. So here's the OGL 1.1 text. Now, some people have been asking, is this real? Was this leaked? I can't emphasize this enough. This was in contracts. And I can tell you why, because Griffin Saddlebag a few days ago said right here, if Wizards D&D says that what we've seen at 1.1 is a draft, that is a lie. The document was sent around with contracts attached. And then he says a few more things. I have many other people who have told me the same thing, that around December 21st, give or take, they were given the 1.1, both commercial, non-commercial, as well as an FAQ with this attached, and an executable contract. Okay, so that's the first thing. I want to get that out there right now. This is not a draft. This was something people expected to sign. So what does it say in here? First of all, the most important thing is they're saying, well, it's an update to the previously available OGL 1.0, which is what everyone uses. They're saying it's no longer an authorized license agreement. They can modify it. They said how they'll do the modifications. They have something here where it says you own the new and original content you create. You agree to give us a non-exclusive, perpetual, and irrevocable, worldwide, sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use that content of any purpose. That is actually going to be interesting because I'm going to get into that because, believe it or not, the OGL 1.0a kind of has something similar. It's not quite that draconian, but they actually have something similar. So, but here's the thing that's very important. This last paragraph. People were saying, how is this possible? It's written really weird. There's no way that's in the contract. For everyone I have spoken to, that language was in the contract. And they have a history, they being WoTC, have a history of being snarky with some of their language. If you look at the creator content text, it has a lot of snarky language in there about them like releasing the Demigorgon and stuff. So this is not, this is not something that's unforeseen. Now, a lot of people have seen the second part of this last paragraph. It says, we're aware that if we somehow stretch our decision of what is not objectable under these clauses too far, we will receive community backlash and bad PR, and we're more than open to being convinced that we made a wrong decision. That's not what's important. Take a look at the first sentence of that third paragraph. You waive any right to sue us over our decision on these issues. So if you signed 1.1, you waive the right to sue Hasbro. You waive the right to sue them individually on a class action lawsuit. You waive your rights. You can no longer sue them. And basically what they're saying here is that, let's just say that you sign 1.1 and you do something that's going amazing. Like you just have a gigantic Kickstarter and people love your world. And then Amazon comes along and decides to do like a show on it. And heck, you're even paying the 25% to WoTC. Somehow you're able to afford that. And you know what WoTC says? You know what? This is doing so well that we're going to modify 1.1 and say, with 30 days notice, that we're going to modify the agreement and say that you have to now pay us 50%. And you say, well, I don't want to. Like, well, too bad. You can't sue us. There's nothing you do. Either agree to it or don't. That's not exact. I'm kind of like being a little snarky with that, but it's pretty close. So you waive your right to sue Hasbro. Why would anyone do this? Now think about this. Why would anyone agree to this? Why would anyone agree to a agreement that pretty much nullifies, is that a new word? Nullifies your past works, your OGL 1.0a, makes it that you can't sue them anymore, that they can use your content in a perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, sublicensable, royalty-free, non-exclusive use for any purpose. Okay? Why would you do any of this? And I can't think of any reason. Can you? I can't think of anyone. I mean, okay, if 6th edition was so freaking good that I had to move over to it, sure. But still, this is so draconian. And the reason they're doing this, and why I'm going to get into the whole, title of this, is that, well, what about this clause here that says we're just going to revoke it? We're just going to revoke OGL 1.0a. It's no longer authorized. And that's what everything hinges on. That's why we were leaked. There's 9,000 words in the OGL 1.1. We were only leaked the most important aspects because these are the ones that need to be discussed. I'm going to now go through some of the history of OGL. And this is where it gets interesting and why we actually have hopefully a good case if it ever comes to that, is that a few things happened. First of all, OGL was created initially in the year 1999 and published in the year 2000. 1999, all those people are still alive. More importantly, I know a lot of these people. Even more importantly, here's the kicker. These people, when they were creating OGL 1.0, there was an email chain where they were talking to some of the key people in the role-playing game industry saying, what should we put in the OGL? So this was not done in a vacuum. This was done with input from multiple luminaries and people in the industry, and they sat down and talked in detail with each other of what should be in the OGL and what its purpose should be. And the good news is a lot of this information is still available, and it has still been archived. So if it ever comes to it, and it comes down to intent, because that's what's one thing that they're going to have to say is, well, the intent, and they've said this publicly, the original OGL was not meant to cover things like video games. It was meant to cover books, and that's it. Well, that's not true. Not only is it not true because there's going to be a lot of these, there's going to be a lot of this information in those original emails, and I'm going to get some of the people who were in the room when it happened, to quote Hamilton, they were there, okay? They were there when this was being created. And this, which you can find on the Wayback Machine, I'll give you the exact, let me give you the link. The exact link, here's the exact link. This is what Wizards of the Coast had on their site in 2004, where they explained in a very nice FAQ, what is the OGL and how does it work? And so we have, let's go back in time. We have in 1999, when the OGL was created, we have emails and documentation of people who were talking to each other about what the purpose of the OGL is. The person who created the original OGL is still alive, and he's actually already said that he doesn't think it could be revoked. The person who wrote OGL 1.0A, I believe, is on Paizo's staff. So he's still around too. Most importantly is that, can Wizards of the Coast change the license in a way that I wouldn't like? Yes, it could. However, the license already defines what would happen to content that has previously been distributed using an earlier version. I won't go through the whole thing, but basically it says you could still use it. And if you go back and look in my video with Alan, this one here, we state that, and we'll go through and say, you still own everything. You can still publish everything. OGL 1.0A is around. They can make a new version 1.1 or 1.2, and they can do anything they want in it. Okay, they can go crazy. But can they remove and force everyone into it? Or more importantly, can they revoke 1.0A? Not really. Hasbro has stated publicly that they felt that it's not supposed to actually allow you to distribute computer software. Guess what? This is right from the actual FAQ. Yes, it's certainly possible. The most significant things that will impact your effort is that you have to give all the recipients the right to extract and use any open game content you've included in your application, and you have to clearly identify what part of the software is open game content. I'll get into that in a second. But not only did they give detailed instructions of how this is possible, there is a software FAQ that goes into details of how you can use OGL for software. Oh, I don't know, like an internet website or an application on your phone. Of course, back then there weren't really phone applications, but you know, you can write very crappy ones back then, but it was possible. You could definitely write software and distribute that, and people did. People distributed things in CD-ROM. Hero Lab was around, and that's been around for as long as I can remember. And that was, that's just like, I forgot what it is. It's like some SQL database. It's, very, very rudimentary, but it works great. So all this was covered. Let me, hold on, I got a lot of people coming here. Let me go to the next one. Now, this is something very interesting about open game content. And I see people saying here, well, and I'm looking real here, well, what about copyrightable IPs? What about things like, I'm the one who did that KOTOR example, by the way. Everyone's like kind of blew up on Twitter. Could you actually, because it's under open game content, the open game license, can you actually use the terms Jedi? Can you actually use Sith Lord? Can you do things like that? And the answer is no, because there is a section in every one of these books where you can say what is open and what is not. In fact, right here, it's a little hard to see, but I have a little section here that says, what is open game content? And I say here, this is my book. This is the, if you ever want to play Dragon 5e or Pathfinder, this is Battlezoo Ancestries Dragons, which you can get at battlezoo.com, and you can play a dragon, and it is freaking awesome. Open game content in this book includes the Dragon Ancestry, the Draconic Ravager, the Dragon Mage, Draconic Diehard, Draconic Scion, and the Hordes of Power. No portion of this work, other than the material designated as open game content, may be reproduced in any form without permission. So, what does that mean? That means that game mechanics, okay, what I just read out were things like feats and subclasses, and those anyone can use. So if you, I'm pointing to you, if you wanted to come out with your own book and you wanted to use the Dragon Ravager from my book, you can. Do you have to pay me anything? No, you do not have to pay me anything. All you need to do is put in the correct copyrights in the OGL. In fact, how do I know this? Well, I know this because this is what I do for a living. The other reason I know is because this already happened to me. This is the Battlezoo Bestiary. This is 114 monsters that were created in a contest by, I call them normal people, but anyone, they were made and then judged by RPG professionals, and then we created a book out of it. Well, there's a monster in here that was so cool, the Husk. Okay, it's kind of like an undead plant. It's really cool. And we have a Leshy Husk, we have a Dryad Husk, and we have a Ent Husk. And Paizo liked our Husk so much they put it in their adventure path. They told me about it, and I'm like, thanks, cool. And what did they do? They gave me credit. It says Battlezoo Bestiary, and that's it. There was nothing I can do about it. They were able to use my Husk because it's open game content. Now, there's certain things in here they're not allowed to use. That is what is protected. So game mechanics, anyone can use. And I have this text up here. I haven't really read to it. If you've been reading it, it says here, right here, does this mean that someone can take open game content I wrote and distributed for free and put it in a product and sell that product to someone else? Yes. To be clear, does that mean Wizards of the Coast can take open game content that I wrote, distribute for free, and put it in a Dungeons & Dragons product and make money off of it? Yes. And they don't need to ask my permission or pay me a royalty. No, they would not. That is the power of the OGL. The OGL is open. Now it's open to everyone. So one of the nice things about it is that it's so open that I actually have to be, if I'm publishing under open game content, open game license, I have to mentally prepare that people can take my content and put it in their books. Now, can they take lore? Okay, we have a whole thing about gods in our Jewel of the Indigo Isles adventure path. Can they take those gods and put them in? Yes. Can they put in the gods? Can they take the lore? No, they cannot. They cannot take the lore. So certain things can be designated as not open content, because many people have heard that you can't use things like a Mind Flayer or a Beholder, or I think a Displacer Beast and Forgotten Realms and other things, because that is all intellectual property. That's all things that can be protected. And you just have to state it in your book. You just have to state what things are protected and what things aren't. And a lot of people actually state, Cobalt does this a lot, and that's fine. They're allowed to. They state that pretty much everything in their books is theirs and cannot be reproduced, except things that are in open game license, like mechanics and things like feats, or if they come up with a new race, or if they come out with a new subclass, all that would be under the OGL. So that is one of the very important things to keep in mind, is that if you publish right now under the OGL, some of your game mechanics can be used by anyone in any product. So if I wanted to take Dark Matter by Mage Hand and take their content and put it in my book, I can. I'm totally allowed to. And they have a little thing here under product identity. So they have a little thing right here. It's a little too small to see, but they outline exactly what is protected by product identity and what is open game content. Okay? So why is that important? Because the OGL 1.0a already has a means for us and other people to use. Wait, how many viewers are we up to? I don't see it. Oh, almost 900. Cool. So yeah. So anyhow, back to what I was saying is that the Open Game License 1.0a already has these provisions in it. By the way, back to the super chat. I didn't forget it. I was kind of on a tangent or a rant right there. I have Severin for $5. It says, you see, there's already a legal inquiry to WoTC on some of the OGL way back and FAQ language that requests a response within 10 days. Yes, trust me. I have read every single thing. I have read every piece on OGL in these last few days. I've watched every video. I have read every article. I have been talking to lots of lawyers, and I have been on top of this, because quite frankly, it affects me. I just had a very large Kickstarter. We're starting something this week. We are starting our Battlezoo Ancestry's Year of Monsters, where you can play things like, and you can see some of the pictures around here. I'll go back to, you can see some of them here. You can see things where you can play a slime, you can play an Ani, you can play a doppelganger, you can play a mimic. There's like a little mimic there. He's actually an oven. Hey, Knights, how you doing? There is a Oni. There's slimes. I think I'm repeating demons. That is coming out this week, and more importantly, we're putting this out on Foundry. So yeah, this affects me. Okay. I'm supposed to be doing this all year long, and I'm working on the sequel to the Battlezoo Bestiary, and we're working on Battlezoo Eldamon, and you know what? I took everyone's money because we did the Kickstarter, so I want to make sure that I can pay these people, I can print these books, and I can get these out to everyone, because I'm trying to make a living off of this, and I'm not up to the $750,000 mark, and thank God I wasn't in these meetings, because I would have had to sign an NDA, but I'm pretty close. I'm like right at that cusp. So I'm not huge, I'm not Kobo Press, but we're still pretty big. We're big enough that I get a lot of orders, okay? And we do pretty well. And I hope to do even better. Hey, Ian, how you doing? Ian, by the way, who's in the chat, he's the one who does all my Foundry modules. He's one of two people. Up and Sheppy. Sheppy's in the chat, and he's the one who did this cover, by the way. So, oh, and look, it's Mark Seifter. Hey, Mark, I'm doing this without you. I got everyone. Look at this. Anyhow, back to what I was saying. Oh, $5. Knights of the Last Call. Hey, Derek. How you doing, Derek? I'm just going to say hi to everyone. As you can see, it's funny. Everyone's probably going, who's this Steve Glicker? Who the heck is he? I never heard of him. I'm one of those people behind the scenes, all right? What do you want? And by the way, if you have questions, I'm kind of going on a rant here, but if you have questions, just, throw them in there. But you can see I'm kind of going through all of this. So as far as I understand, let's go through and go back to what I was saying. under some of these agreements, under, what is defined in the OGL. So let's go back. So Hasbro decides, let's come out with a new version of Dungeons and Dragons, 6th edition. Calling it 6th edition. Everyone call it 6th edition. That's what it is. They're coming out with 6th edition. 6th edition will allow them to reset the playing field. They can create their own VTT. They can then lock down everyone else and force them to now use their VTT, their digital platform, their everything. Everything has to go through WoTC. Everything. Now let's go up to the next thing. Around and approximately December 21st, contracts with the OGL 1.1 were sent out. Griffin Saddlebag was one of the people who received them, as well as a few others. And they received contracts. Not all of them were the same. And I'm going to tell you right now, some people have been saying, well, there's going to probably be sweetheart deals because some people, me, would have to pay 25%. Well, maybe you only have to pay 20%. Maybe you only have to pay 15% of your revenue. You know what? You don't make that much money in this industry. 15%? That's too much. Now, they might be thinking, well, what's 15%? Who cares? That's not that much. I'm going to tell you what 15% is. I'm going to take this book. I'm going to sell my book at a local game store. Okay, let's say my book, it's $50. I then sell this to the local game store. I sell it to them for $25. That's how it works. I sell for 50%. They get $25. I get $25. But wait a second, I actually don't get $25 because the distributor, they get $10. Sorry, they get 10%. So they get $5. So now I'm down to $20 for my book. And I also have to cover some things like shipping and other warehousing costs, and I won't get into all of that, but also if I want to do advertising within the distributor's catalogs, I got to pay for that. So there's all these other things I have to pay for. And now WoTC comes around and says, oh, by the way, give us 15% of your 40%. So I'm now making 25%. And let's say I don't have the 15% deal. Let's say I have the 25% deal. So I'm bad at math. So 40%, 25%, what's that? 15%? Great. How am I going to sell this book and get 15%? And then I had to print it. Okay. Let me tell you, it costs a fair amount to print these books. I will make no money. And there's no point in me printing books and selling them anywhere else. Okay, well then let's just say, so that now affects your local game stores because they're not going to be able to buy these books because people like me can't afford to sell them. We just can't. So, okay, let's say, okay, I'm going to sell it on drive-through. I'm going to sell this on drive-through RPG. Well, drive-through takes 35%. 35% is not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Except PDFs usually sell for a lot less. You're usually selling them for half of what the hardcover book goes for. It's already making less money. And then WoTC is going to take another 25% on top of that. 25%, 20%, 15%. It might not sound like a lot of money, especially in the world that we live in, where Apple gets 30% of your royalties, of your sales, where, Amazon gets a piece. The problem is that the way everything has been structured to date is that the pieces are already being taken out. Right now, Amazon gets a piece. Right now, Drive-Thru RPG gets a piece. Right now, distributors and sellers get a piece. Everyone gets a piece. And now WoTC decides, we'll just add 25% on top of that. That's it. I mean, I literally will not be able to do this anymore. And I'm not small. I'm not huge, but I'm definitely not small. There's no way I can continue to do this. There's no way most of these people can continue to do this. And by the way, I'm going to tell you the other good news. I don't know anyone who signed that contract. No one. I don't know a single person who did. That doesn't mean it wasn't signed, but every single person on that OpenDND Games website, which by the way, I'm going to do right in here. There we go. I don't think any of those people signed it, and you see some pretty big names up there. If you look at that list, you see the signed who's on that list, and there's a lot of people. You see Rogue Genius Games. Oh, and Casey Stevens, man, they put him up high. I'm the one who got him on there. You got Mei-Chan Press. You got Foundry. You got Plane Shift. You got Griffin Saddlebags. You got Dungeon Scribe. You got Alchemy. You got me. You got Loot Tavern. Loot Tavern's pretty big. You got the DM Tool Chest. You got Splattered Games. Like these aren't small publishers, okay? And they're publicly saying that we need to open up D&D because I get it, all right? I get that WoTC needs to make money. I totally understand it. I'll even say that if 6th edition is so freaking awesome and they give us so many tools and ability to build out this incredible game that, okay, I'm on board, man. I'm on board. But that's the problem. They actually have to do that. Do you know how much work that is? Do you know how hard it is to actually create a game system and make it so everyone really, really wants to go on top of it? Can you imagine? It's incredibly hard. It's so hard that that's why the OGL was created. The OGL was created because the people who made Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition, they said, you know what? We come out with a lot of content. And for people who were alive back then, FYI, I've been playing D&D since 1977. I'm old. I've been playing a long time, nearly weekly. In fact, I got a game tonight. Not D&D, a Pathfinder. But I will say that they knew that they just could not, and they were coming out with a lot of content, coming out with book after book, module after module. I mean, they were cranking it out, but they still couldn't get enough out. And they knew there was a homebrew community back then. They knew people were creating content, and they knew the secret of making D&D the worldwide brand that it has become today is to open it up, to turn it into something. By the way, everyone who's super chatting me, thank you very much. I'm acknowledging every single one of you. Thank you, Jonah. Thank you. I'm scrolling right through. John, how do we direct so much hate to Hasbro that they back down? We do this. This is how we do it. We just have to keep up the pressure. And I'm telling you, it's working. I can't tell you how, or I can't tell you why it is working. I know for a fact it's working. I can't get into reasons in detail, but it is. And that's good news. It is starting to work because one of their biggest fears was this leaking. Because from what I understand, is they were going to try to lock up all the biggest names during the holidays. I mean, I can't get into it. I've been dealing with Fortune 500s a long time. I've had this happen to me in the past. I've had companies give me draconian contracts on December 21st saying you have like to the end of the year to sign it. Really? I'm like going on vacation. All my lawyers are on vacation. That is what you do? You don't do that when you're negotiating in good faith, okay? You just don't. So they give out these contracts and they say you have until approximately, again, these are all approximate numbers, January 4th. January 4th was the time and date where supposedly my belief is that they were hoping, they being WoTC, and it's really Hasbro, by the way. I say WoTC, but it's really Hasbro, that the big names would get signed on. And if they have the big names signed on, if you have the biggest publishers, So what? What do we care about the small ones, okay? If they sign on, great. If they don't, we push them out. Games Workshop does this all the time. Okay, they do it all the time. So they get on the big boys, they got on the main people. They say, look, we got all these people. I'll get these super chats in a second. We got all these people. They all signed on. Here's a new OGL. You have until January 13th to accept it or not. That, I believe, was the timeline. Now, Wizards has been dead silent since all of this happened. That's good news. That means that they're realizing this is not working. Does that mean they're going to back down? Probably not. I'm going to tell you why. Because they spent $146 million to acquire D&D Beyond. They have been hiring like crazy. Okay? Half of my friends from Blizzard, from that's another life, my life with my Blizzard friends. Half my friends at Paizo were hired by WoTC. 2 of my core writers on the Jewel of the Indigo Isles adventure path, Ron Lundeen and Patrick Rennie, both were hired by Wizards of the Coast recently. They've been hiring everyone they can find. So they are gearing up for 6th edition. They are gearing up to really ramp this up. So, yeah, this is probably not something they're going to back down from. Let's see. By the way, let's go through a couple of super chats. Randall Picard, $5. Technically, the OGL only bans legal actions. It does not ban illegal actions like firebombing Hasbro, just device effects. You're completely correct. Anyone who saw Rick and Morty and they're like, oh, is what I say in here protected? And like, when he's talking to a shrink, it's like everything except murder. And he's like, well, in that case, I did not murder that person. Same thing. It's within the legality of the law is what's protected. Would it be appropriate to contact Hasbro major shareholders, create a buzz for $10? Yes, it definitely will. And the good news is, it's a slow news cycle right now. It's dead. This is like the deadest news cycle I've ever seen. This story is getting picked up by everyone. I know I heard Rolling Stone is going to do an article about it very soon. I know, obviously, Gizmondo did an article about it. PBS just did an article about it. I believe Forbes is doing an article about it. I believe HBO Vice, they're going to be doing an article about it. Like, this is starting. IGN did an article about it. Like, this is starting to pick up press. And this is probably their worst nightmare. That not only did this leak come out, not only has the fan backlash been overwhelming and unbelievably fast, but this news story is being picked up everywhere, and it's not small enough. That's the problem. D&D is it's got your classic David versus Goliath. Everyone knows what Dungeons and Dragons is. Wow, 1,200 viewers, live viewers. That's crazy. Everyone like, please, and subscribe, and do check out battlezoo.com if you want to see our cool products. But definitely contract them, because the major shareholders of Hasbro, and by the way, I've been following, and I've had past streams where I've gone through the Hasbro stakeholder meetings, and I've gone through their holdings, there's sales reports, and explained how WoTC has become so important to Hasbro. How in the few years ago, they never even mentioned Magic the Gathering or D&D once. Not once. And slowly but surely, not only has Magic the Gathering been a centerpiece of all their earnings reports, but so has Magic the Gathering. So has been Dungeons and Dragons. So this is a big deal. And in fact, a few months ago, a major group asked that they break off Wizards of the Coast separate from Hasbro. This is kind of standard, by the way. What was happening is that Hasbro was making money on WoTC, and they were losing money on just about everything else, and they were using WoTC to basically fund some of their losing ventures. And this is common, by the way. The public companies do this all the time. So a very large group of shareholders demanded that they break off WoTC into its own company, let them thrive and make their own money, and let Hasbro do what they will with their board games and toys and so forth. Of course, Hasbro said no, but just to give you an idea, they're not ignorant to this fact. Shareholders know what's going on. They know how much money they're making. And let's see, Princess Lucy said we need an otherwise unchangeable 1.0B that's irrevocable. Yeah, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. And then I got a big super. Hey, Knights of the Last Call. Ivory Tower game design doesn't benefit any of us. TTRPG should not be a monolith and monopolized under a single brand. I've been saddened by what happened to Magic the Gathering, but to see in D&D is so overwhelmingly saddening. Yes, Derek. It's funny. I've been talking to Derek. Derek runs Knights of Last Call, and he said, he didn't really care about the OGL, and he's like, who cares? Derek plays a lot of other games besides, he doesn't play D&D. He plays Pathfinder and lots of other cool games. But then he and I were talking. I was explaining that's the problem, is that if they implement 1.1 OGL, they can try to take away the tools, they being Hasbro, that allows us to play role-playing games. Okay? Do I know any petitions going up? Yeah. Open this one. This is the one. This one. This is the one that you should go to. I should have the screen up, by the way. That's the one you should go to. That's one of the main petitions. There's a couple petitions, but this is the one that's actually being run by people in the industry. And then hopefully this will keep everyone organized. So, what was I saying? Oh, I did want to go back and say one thing. So I've been thinking a lot about the defense. Like, okay, I'm Hasbro. What are they going to say in their public statement? It's called to save the children, or don't you think of the children? Okay, that's something I made up, by the way. But it's the old. Well, we need to protect the brand. We need to protect the children. We need to make sure that our brand isn't being used in a bad way. So here we go. We need to make a new OGL. Okay, there's a couple problems with that. First of all, if this was a problem, guess what? The OGL 1.0A has the ability to be updated at any point in time. If they felt that NFTs, which by the way pretty much disappeared last year, were so important to protect the brand against, come up with OGL 1.0B and specifically state in there that NFTs were an issue. You could do that at any time. If you want to protect the brand in certain ways, come up with a new OGL. Why didn't they? Why didn't you come up with a new OGL? I don't know. Anyone could. You can just, update it at any time. You don't need to revoke the old one. You can just update it and put in these clauses. And especially if they're very reasonable, like you're not allowed to, I'm not going to get into it, but you can't mention Nazis or something. And I'm just going out there. If you can't, say something that's really horrible, sure, put that in there. And I'm sure no one's going to have a problem. Like, oh yeah, that's totally reasonable. I'm going to use OGL 1.0B. But why didn't they do that? And that comes back to the crux of my position, is that every legal expert I've spoken to, all the IP attorneys, by the way, you might hear my dogs barking because I have very loud dogs, they have all said you can't revoke it. And even if you can, there's a lot of problems. The problems are right now, one, there's a lot of emails and information out there that tracked the creation and intent of OGL 1.0. And that's something they've been saying. Okay, they've been saying, oh, we don't know what the original intent was. Well, guess what? We do. We have those emails. The people who wrote OGL 1.0 and 1.0A are still very much alive. So you can ask them. There was a lot of people who were there, like Owen Casey Stevens, who were part of the creation of the OGL. You can ask them. There's a lot of people. Okay, you bring them up to the stands. The next thing is, well, it wasn't supposed to be used in this context. Well, guess what? There's an FAQ created by Wizards of the Coast in 2004 that goes through all these details and explains, yeah, you can use it for software. In fact, check out our software FAQ for more information. It actually says that right there. I'm looking at it. What about royalty payments? Guess what? No royalty payments have to be done right here. It says right here. What about everything being open and being able to use the content? Yeah, actually you can. It says that right here. Okay, well, what about we don't want people to use it for Nazi imagery or something terrible? Okay, well, you could have updated it any time. You had 23 years, and if this was such a big deal, why'd you wait? Okay. Again, you can see where I'm going with this. There's 23 years of precedent showing the OGL being used. The other thing that's important is Hasbro and Dungeons and Dragons became so big because of the OGL. It became such a gigantic, gargantuan brand because of what they were able to do and have an open gaming license. And because of that, now they're huge. They're the biggest game in the world by far. People, when I was a kid in the 80s, we knew what D&D was. It was a D&D cartoon. I played it, obviously. All the kids talked about it. It was big, but it wasn't everywhere. Well, now a couple generations later, you got Critical Role. You got Stranger Things. In fact, I was just watching Games Done Quick, which I love, by the way, and that's how important I felt about doing the stream, is I actually not watching Games Done Quick. They started off Games Done Quick with a Dungeons and Dragons skit. Think about that. That is insane. Okay, D&D is mainstream. Okay, it is mainstream. Now, how did it get that way? Because of the OGL. Okay, I'm going to give you another example of an OGL, which you're probably not going to believe. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. Have any of you heard, I'll get to your question in a second, Ollie. Have any of you heard of a little thing called Cthulhu? I don't know, it's kind of obscure and rare, but this thing called Call of Cthulhu and Cthulhu Legends and Cthulhu. Yeah. The reason why Cthulhu is so popular, and it's still around now 100 years later, is not because the writing was so incredible, not because it was so, mind-breakingly fantastic that everyone had to read it and talk about it. No. When Cthulhu was created, there was an open license that allowed anyone to write their stories in the Cthulhu universe and did not have to pay royalties or anything else to Lovecraft. Lovecraft made it open source. And because of that, because Cthulhu was open source, 100 years later, we still talk about it. Think about that for a second, okay? Can you think about that? So, Cthulhu being open source for over 100 years has allowed Cthulhu and the world of Lovecraft to continue to this day. That shows you the power of open source, open game licenses. Linux, another example. Linux runs pretty much, the World Wide Web. Linux, if Linux didn't exist, I don't know if we would have pretty much a lot of technology we have today. Every single thing that NASA creates, they don't patent any of it. Things like Velcro, I can't even tell you. If you look on Wikipedia, there's like 1 million things that were created during the space race, and NASA just gives out those patents and let people use that for free. Okay? That is the power of an open game and open source license, is that you, being the creator of that content, can share it with everyone in the world. And if you want to get really big and really well known and become, I don't know, a critical mass and part of the zeitgeist, you do what they did. You go open source, or back then it was open gaming license, and it worked. It worked great. Just one small problem. They don't get any of the money. They get a lot of money. They get lots and lots and lots of money. Okay? Everyone who buys Dungeons and Dragons, that money goes to WoTC. I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong on this, someone correct me, but I'm pretty sure that ever since the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition Player's Handbook came out, it has never not been on the top 100 Amazon bestsellers, ever. It might have broken out of that 100, but I'm telling you, it's always been up there. And that's a long time. That's 10 years. So it's always a bestseller. That's a lot of money, okay? They make a lot of money in Dungeons and Dragons. Do they make all the money? Nope. They do not make all the money. Do they have a lot of competitors out there? Yeah, they do. They have competitors like Paizo. They have competitors like Critical Role, who is now buddying up with Amazon. They have competitors, well, they have a lot, okay? They have competitors in the VTT space. And with technology getting better and better, they're going to probably keep having more. They're going to have competitors for people who are going to create character builders that allow you to build characters outside of 1D&D. So all of this is something that they don't get a piece of and they want a piece of. So how do they get the piece? They got to end the open gaming license. Or the other way they can do it is that they can make Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition so fantastic that we all use it. That takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of effort. That takes a lot of years. This is a lot faster, and they need to answer those shareholders quick. Let's back up and look at Ollie's question. Ollie, any word if Critical Role or MCDM signed anything? I don't have any word personally. MCDM came out with a fairly stern wording about they're looking into it, I believe. Don't take my exact quote. They did say something, so I doubt they're going to sign it. Especially, why would they want to give 25% of their $2 million? On top of that, they supposedly pay, MCDM supposedly pays extremely well. Very, very well from what I know. So if they have to start paying 25%, damn, they will not be able to pay well again. I doubt Critical Role. I guarantee Critical Role and some of the other big boys, they got their own contracts. And I know that for a fact. I know that there's a commercial license, there's a non-commercial license, and there's individual contracts for a few years that were given out to individual publishers that would get different terms. So I guarantee Critical Role has a sweetheart deal, and they're probably getting something very nice. Probably not as good as they had before, which was, well, they didn't have to do anything really. And on top of that, D&D was promoting them quite a bit. Excuse me for a second. I've been talking nonstop, and I don't have a drink. So let's see, how are we doing? I've been just talking nonstop. I feel like a talk show host. Well, we got 1,400 people watching. That's a little bit more than I usually have. Usually on my live show, we have a show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we get usually maybe 50 people. So there we go. Hills Mallory, $5. This is 4th edition Essentials all over again. Then they learned a lesson from the first time. No, they did not, because they were not the same people. 4th edition, and I was there, okay? I was there. I was running Dungeon Crawl Classic tournaments for Goodman Games at Gen Con. And I ran many of the tournaments, and I helped out Adrian, who pretty much ran the tournaments, one of my players and friends. And that was done in 3.5. When 4th edition came out, we did run a DCC tournament for 4th edition. I wrote half of it. I actually wrote the module for 4th edition. that was the first and the last time anything came out for 4th edition from a third-party publisher that I'm aware of. Okay. That was it. And the problem was, if you signed on to 4th edition, you had to give up all your rights to publish on 3.5. I haven't looked at the GSL in a long time, but it was very draconian. And it was one of those, why would we sign on? Let's just do 3.5. And that's also why Paizo created Pathfinder. Pathfinder was literally created because of the OGL, and they took 3.5 and made a 3.75, which is what Pathfinder 1.0 basically is. Back to what I said in the very, very beginning of this, and I'm going to continuously... Oops, I pasted in the wrong place. Join this. This is OpenDND Games. This is an online petition and letter that we're going to make Hasbro be aware of. Mike, you should put a count, perhaps, so people know how many people have signed it. Make sure to write him now. You should put a count on the page to show how many people signed it. Maybe. Okay, I just wrote him. Yeah, definitely hit the like button. Please subscribe if you want to hear more of this. We have a live show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, myself and Mark Seifter. I'm going to get people on. We're probably going to be talking about this for a while. We usually talk about other role-playing game topics, like why it's good to kill your character. Hold on, let me get a drink. I'm like dying here. Oh, there we go. Much better. Sorry about that. Anyhow, what I was saying is that if they try to dismantle the tools and dismantle the tools by things like not allowing Kickstarters to run because they don't adhere to 1.1, by not allowing content to go on Drive-Thru RPG because it doesn't adhere to 1.1, by blocking VTTs like Foundry from existing because they're using 1.0A and they don't allow that. So you can no longer use this information. If they take people like Paizo and put them out of business, it's going to affect all of you. It's going to affect everyone. And I know why people are fighting this, because I've been talking to people. Because this is people's lives. This is people define themselves through sports, through games, and people are like, well, why are you so worked up over a role-playing game? Why are you so worked up about this? And I think because people do this, and it's part of their existence. It's part of their life. It's not like, oh, I'm just doing this and it's just a game. This helps define who I am. And I've been playing role-playing games nearly weekly every day of my life for 40-something years. A lot of people have. This would be like, you know, I'm a huge baseball fan. If they got rid of baseball, this would destroy me. If they got rid of, I'm sure, football for a lot of people, or basketball, or soccer, or hockey, or anything else you love, movies, you know, things like that. If they just got rid of it, this wouldn't be just like, oh, they got rid of a game. Or it's like, I know people have always, this happened to everyone. You have a favorite store or a favorite restaurant that closes, and it affects you because that was part of your existence, part of your life, part of your identity. Well, this is part of people's identity. This is part of people's existence, okay, is role-playing games and D&D and Pathfinder and all this. So it's really, really important, and that's why everyone's freaking out, because it could all just disappear. What's going to happen? I mean, this is why I think Hasbro massively underestimated the outcry, because it's funny. When Dungeon Magazine went out of business, I was devastated. I remember when it happened. This was a major blow to my existence. I loved that magazine. And when it ceased to exist, I literally was depressed for a while. Dragon magazine too, but even more so Dungeon, because I looked forward to getting that magazine every month. I looked forward to reading those dungeons and just seeing the craziness in there. Imagine all the dungeons. Imagine all the modules, all the games just disappearing. It's mind-boggling. It's beyond devastating. And this could happen. I know it sounds impossible, and people are like, this is not going to happen. Well, if Hasbro has their way, it might. Okay? They are going to try to force everyone to use their platform, force everyone to use D&D Beyond, whether or not you're using D&D. Though if they make their own BTT, they can just say, oh yeah, if you want to play Mathfinder, I'm just making something up. Yeah, you could do it. You could do it on our platform. You got to pay. You know, you got to pay a fee. You can't do it for free. And you got to pay to join. And there's a lot of little microtransactions here and there, but sure, you can do it. That's what they want, okay? Because they said themselves that Dungeons and Dragons is heavily under-monetized. Not just under-monetized, heavily, massively under-monetized. They don't use those words lightly. They're like, they know they're leaving money on the table, a lot of money. And sure, there might be a lot of short-term pain. They probably are going to piss everyone off, and they're probably hoping, you know what? Okay, we got all these people, and they're super angry at us. Fine. Short-term pain. It's going to stink for a couple of years, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. But if we're able to shut everyone down, who cares? What else are you going to do? If we're able to shut down Paizo, and we're able to shut down Foundry, and we're able to shut down Drive-Thru RPG, and we're able to shut down everyone else, and we're the only game in town, who cares? Sounds kind of draconian and horrible, but I kind of think that's their dream scenario, is that that's how they would do it. I see some people wondering, who the hell is this guy? Who's Steven Glicker from Roll from Combat? Who the hell is this guy? I'm an official partner with Paizo. That's one thing. I have been doing an actual play podcast for Starfinder and Pathfinder for over 5 years. We actually have over 500 episodes, so you can check that out if you go to rollforcombat.com. I came out with, there's a thing called RPG Superstar. RPG Superstar was run by Paizo for years and years, and we took it over. It allows people to submit. In the past, it would be like magic kind of stuff. And if you submitted something and it was voted on by the judges and it was good enough, you got it published. I took it over a couple years ago, and we have it updated. You go to rbgsuperstar.com, you create monsters, and they're judged, and then the winners get paid and published in a book. And this book is out for both Pathfinder and 5e. And we publish people's monsters. They are cleaned up and made awesome. We also publish things like Battle Zoo Ancestry Dragons, let you play Dragon. We're doing a new thing where you can play monsters. It's coming out on Tuesday. Battle Zoo Ancestry's Age of Monsters. We're coming out with one new monster. It's like Monster of the Month Club. You come out with one new monster every month. And if you go to battlezoo.com, you can check that out. We're coming out with Battle Zoo Eldamon. Do you like Pokemon? Do you like Avatar? Guess what? And that's what Battle Zoo Eldamon is. You can find a lot about it on there. But yeah, we come out with the new Eldamon every week. You can it's Pokemon more or less. And you can summon and train them. And you could also take the Eldamon powers and put them through you, like airbending. That's coming out. So we come out with weird stuff. We come out with stuff that's very family friendly. We come out with stuff that's very bright, very colorful. And I try to come out with things that people wish they can come out with, but didn't come out with. And the reason I'm able to do that is because I have some of the best developers in the world. Every single thing that I have created and been developed has actually been developed by someone who's either worked at Paizo, worked at WoTC, worked for EN World, except for me. I'm actually the only one who hasn't worked for any of those companies, but everyone else has. By the way, so here we go, another super chat. John Harrison, all 5e content creators should write for Shadow of the Demon Lord, make the new #1 game, boycott. Yeah. You know what? That's the other problem, though. And I'm going to say, this is why everyone's saying, okay, you know what? Let's come out with a new game. Okay, let's come out with a brand new game and just put WoTC out of business. First of all, it's not going to happen. Here's the problem. Let's say I want to come out with a new game, and I say, I'm going to come up with a new game. I'm going to kickstart it. Well, Kickstarter signed a contract with WoTC. Why would they allow it to go on? Why would they allow this to be on their platform? They can kick it off. Okay, that's the first problem. Next problem, if they take over the VTT space, they being Hasbro, with D&D Beyond, where are you going to run it? Where are you going to come out with your content? Okay, that's another problem. It's like, where are you gonna actually play this game? If they're trying to put out people like Drive-Thru RPG out of business, where are you gonna sell it? Okay, I guess you can sell it on your own platform, and you can sell it at Amazon. But the point is, if you're taking down all the tools and all the distribution channels, it's going to be very, very, very hard to come out with a third-party game. And that is what they're gunning for. They're trying to remove all these third-party distribution platforms and publishers so that they have everything go through them, that they become Apple. And they become, if you want to release something, you have to do it on our platform. And we're taking a cut. And the funny thing is, the people who run run Hasbro now, come from the world of computers and Microsoft and stuff. And they say, oh, well, okay, 30% is kind of standard in our space. So 25%, that's not so bad. 20%, that's nothing. They should be used to it. And as I said earlier, yeah, except we're already paying percentages to lots of other people, okay? That's the problem. We're not paying just 25% to Hasbro. We're paying 5% goes to Kickstarter, and then the actual Stripe, they get another 2 or 3%. So it's about 7-8% goes to them whenever you do a Kickstarter. Then you have to print the content. Then you have to pay people. Then if it goes on Drive-Thru, you got to pay them 35%. I can keep going. You don't get that much money in this world. Deus Ex Machina, $5. Deus Ex Machina will continue to support 5e with or without the original OGL. We added it to the SRD by offering Ultramodern 5 as OGL. Yeah, I'm actually looking at whether or not I can remove the OGL. The problem is I could probably remove it from my 5e material, but it's very hard to remove it from my Pathfinder material. I can't because it's Pathfinder. And even if I did, it's really tough. It's hard to remove that. Some people have platforms that they can, but the problem is that say you remove it and suddenly you don't have a VTT in 2 or 3 years to run your games. So is your plan to litigate? No, my plan is not to litigate. My plan is I have spoken to my attorneys and they're getting ready. They're putting together examples and not cases, but they're pulling a lot of content out to prepare in case something happens. That's about it. Put it this way, I'm not going after them. And I'm going to keep using the OGL as long as possible. And we'll see what happens. Severin, $5. Hard to theorize, but your thoughts if OGL is upheld in court? What if Kickstarters and others who sign 1.4 do? What will they do? That's actually a good question. Stop those who still publish 1.0? Well, Kickstarter is privately owned, so they can stop anyone, anytime, any place. They could just decide to not do your Kickstarter. Something to keep in mind. Good news is BackerKit, who I am very friendly with, they are starting their own platform. You've probably seen it. Well, there's nothing like a little bit of competition. That's how it's supposed to work in America, and that's how the market's supposed to work, is that if you can't do it on Kickstarter, you better believe, I better believe that BackerKit is going to go full force and fully embrace every single one of those people who want to come out with a 1.0A product. I guarantee they're all going to probably go to BackerKit. There is a problem. I will say when I do a Kickstarter, that's something like, kind of scary, but something like 40 to 50% of the people from my Kickstarter actually come from Kickstarter. They don't come from my private lists. They don't come from, contacts. So with that being said, you kind of want us to be on Kickstarter because you get a lot of money and a lot of people from Kickstarter. So that's one of the downsides of using someone other than them. Let's see. Are they trying to take Lazy Lurker Bro? Are they trying to take cuts from D&D podcasts? Is there literally anyone who makes any kind of D&D content? Yes. Yeah. They're trying to take. So if let's just say you have a D&D podcast, and let's say right now the threshold is $750,000. That's not too much money. But let's say if you make more than $50,000 on your podcast, which can be done if you have a Patreon for your podcast, and if you sell ads on your podcast, and you put your podcast through YouTube, $50,000 is not unheard of to make that much money in 1 year. You have to register your podcast with Hasbro. You have to tell them exactly how much money you've made and how well it's been doing. That's the rumor of how it's going to work. So, yeah, you need to report anyone who's making money on anything that has to do with 6th edition, or in this case, if they get through 1.1, any edition of D&D, you have to register with them and you have to tell them what is happening and how well it's doing. That's a lot of work, okay? Not just a lot of work, but you got to register everything. That is insane. Podcast and YouTube falls under review of commentary and discussion, fair use. You are correct. It does fall under fair use. However, if you have a Kickstarter, sorry, not a Kickstarter, if you have a Patreon and you're making money off of that content, you can be, depending on how 1.1 is written, you can have to report that income because you're making income indirectly. Oh, hey, Slife Flourish. Wow, I got everyone here. Damn. Anyone who doubts this will affect them should remember we have 5e because WoTC had competition from Pathfinder first and others would need to evolve after 4e. That's correct. And let's see. I've read that WoTC forced Kickstarter to sign some contract. Can't find the tweet. Yes. So the contract, they didn't force them, but Kickstarter negotiated a deal that if you do a Kickstarter and you make over $750,000, instead of paying 25%, you only pay 20% through Kickstarter to WoTC. So if you make that much money, what happens is, let's see, you give 7-8% to Kickstarter and Stripe, and then you give 20% to WoTC right off the top. And then you get the rest and you can make your Kickstarter. That's what they signed. The other thing, the problem with Kickstarter is that, well, can't you just stop your Kickstarter once you get to 750,000? You can't. You can't stop your Kickstarter. You could take it down, but there's no tools to make you stop a Kickstarter early. So if you make too much, it's almost like if you make too much money, you're punished. Blazing Blue, do you expect WoTC and or Hasbro to address this at any time soon? Not sure of how much insider information and past experience you have on these sort of things, but figure it's worth asking. I got to be careful how I answer this. They were supposed to come out with something last week. They're supposed to have this out and ratified and have everyone sign it in theory by January 13th. That's this Friday. I don't know what they're going to come out with. I don't know how they're going to spin this. They're probably going to spin this by saying this was experimental and something we were just testing. As I can point out to this tweet here, that's not true. We're not testing it. It was not a draft. This was sent out to people. This was sent out to people as a signable, executable contract. So that's the first thing you need to know. The next thing you need to know is that I have no idea what they're going to do. I believe that they spent $146 million on D&D Beyond. They're creating a 6th edition and have been hiring like crazy and have a movie coming out and need to answer very angry shareholders and need to make money. And the only way they seem to have figured out how to make money is to take it from others. So I have a feeling they're going to try very, very hard to invalidate this. They can come out with, they can fix this very easy. They can come out with 1.1. They can have all that language in there, and they just take out the one simple thing that says here that it is an update to the previous available OGL 1.0, which is no longer an authorized license agreement. Just take out that line. Just take out, which is no longer an authorized license agreement. They come out with everything else, and then ta-da, everyone can sign 1.1 if you want. But as I've said before, why would you want to sign 1.1? First of all, it's not even out yet. So why would I do it? And second of all, why would I do it? Again, I have to see what is my benefit for signing away my right to sue. What's my benefit for giving you non-exclusive royalty-free license to use my content for any purpose? Why am I giving you 25% of potential profits? Why am I reporting all of my income and how my products are doing after $50,000? Why do I have to register everything through you? What do I get in return? I don't know. Right now, you get a sticker that says your product's an official 6th edition product. That might be worth something. That's not nothing. I'm not doubting that. They might even promote your products through 1D&D. They might even promote the products through their Twitter. That's not nothing either. 1D&D supposedly has somewhere around 10 million people. That's a lot of people. That helps a lot. But what else do you get? Like, is everyone going to be playing it? Is everyone going to move over to it? You know, it's like when Windows comes out with an update. Is there any incentive for me to use the next version of Windows? Is it that much better? Especially because I can still keep using my old version of Windows. I still use, I don't even know what I use. I use the older version. I don't even know what the new one's called, but I have not moved over. I have other computers in my house that use it. I don't like it. I've kept the old Windows. I get those whenever I restart. It's like, you want to go to Windows 11? You want to go to the new Windows? I'm like, no, thank you. I'm fine with what I got. I don't need the new one. And there's no incentive. There's no incentive for me to move over. The old one's working out great. JD Ginger, everyone who wants an OpenDND should stop supporting big names in the industry that signed to OGL Kickstarter. You know what? There's the problem. This is all well and good. You know what? A lot of people have been saying boycott the new Harry Potter game. Well, unfortunately, if you look at the top selling pre-sales so far this year, the new Harry Potter game is right at the very top. Okay. People say these things and they can try doing these boycotts. Unfortunately, I don't know how successful they are. I just don't know how successful. However, being angry and continuously bombarding the internet, Twitter, YouTube, with these type of articles and statements, it will have an effect. I guarantee it. And the thing is, when the player's handbook is in the Amazon top 100 every single week, none of us that are watching this video are probably, if we stop buying anything from WoTC, is that going to affect those sales? They're not. Okay, we're not the ones buying that. Okay, yes, we will affect sales for their new products, but we are a drop in the ocean comparatively. However, we are a strong drop, and we have a lot to say because we're the people who create the third-party content. I think back to when, I don't know if anyone knows this story, but I'm going to tell everyone a fun little story. Did you know that Marvel was bankrupt and almost went out of business? This is true. Back in the early 2000s, it was either late 1990s or early 2000s, Marvel Comics, you know, people kind of own the world now. They have like every billion-dollar movie ever. They decided that, you know what? We make money, but we don't make enough money. So this is what we're going to do. Right now, what happens is I sell my comic book to a distributor. I'm taking my comic book and I'm selling it to a distributor. And then the distributor sells it to the comic book stores. We're losing out on that money that the distributor gets. So you know what? Let's buy the distributor. So what Marvel did is they said, let's buy up the distributor, and now we get all the monies. We're going to get the money from making the book, and then we're going to get the money for distributing it to the comic book stores. There was a small problem. You see, comic book stores really didn't make that much money, and they were always late on their payments, and they were always doing things like, oh, I don't know, you know, asking for loans or asking for, they were working very closely with the distributor to make sure that they were staying in business. It was sort of a symbiotic relationship. And then as soon as Marvel bought them, that stopped. They just decided, hey, you know what? You can't pay us anymore. We're not going to send you our comic books anymore. Well, guess what? They stopped sending comic books to the people who were selling them comic books. So what happens when you kill your people who are selling your product? Oh, you go bankrupt. So what happened? What happened is Marvel basically put hundreds of comic book companies out of business. Comic book distributor, sorry, comic book stores. I'm just getting it all wrong. Comic book stores out of business. Suddenly, oh my God, we're not selling comics anymore. And oh my God, no one's paying us anymore because all these companies all these stores went out of business. So we don't have anyone paying us distributors. And oh my God, we just put ourselves out of business. That is what can happen here. This happened with Marvel. Marvel went bankrupt. Okay? They almost went belly up. Not only that, before I did this, I had a company. I had a Supernova Productions. I was 3 blocks from the Marvel offices. Half the people who worked for me worked for Marvel. I used to eat in the Marvel in their conference room all the time. I was there constantly. By the way, it was awesome. It was the Spider-Man conference room. It's Spider-Man everywhere. It was great. And I was there when this was all happening. I used to hang out and talk to these guys. It was crazy. They thought they were going to go out of business. They had no idea. And then Marvel was sold to Disney and Pixar, and the rest is history, okay? The thing is, they can go down this exact same route. If they decide, you know what? Hasbro can go the route of Marvel. They can say, you know what? We are making some money, but we want to make all the monies. So we're going to make sure that we get all the money from everyone, all the third-party people. Well, you know what? You're going to put us all out of business. And you put us out of business, and then who's going to create content for your game? Are you going to create all the content? Maybe you're thinking, okay, fans, they already got a lot of people who are fans out there who put in through DM's Guild. Sure, there is a lot of people there who put out DM's Guild. But are you going to be able to come out with things like this? I mean, these books are incredible. I mean, I don't have to tell you, like, you know, the amount I spend on art alone, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars, okay? You have 150 plus dragons in these things. Each piece of art costs a couple $100 each. The writers, they cost several $1,000s. Cover art alone could be nearly $1,000 just for cover art, not alone printing costs and everything else. Okay? People like us come out with, I won't say superior, but we come out with very polished products. Trust me, there's a lot of good stuff on DM's Guild. There's a lot of fantastic stuff on DM's Guild. But there's also a lot of people that are coming out with crazy things. Like, I mean, I came out with an entire book, one book on one race, dragons. A book on one thing. Who else is going to do that? Not a lot of other people. If they get rid of all of us, they're going to kill their own hobby. And they might think they're too big to fail. They probably do. They're going to find out they're not. Things come and go, especially in the geek culture, unbelievably quickly. Marvel almost went out of business. They did go bankrupt. They almost went out of business. It was very close. And it was by dumb luck that they were bought out by Disney. And Disney was smart enough to go crazy. But even that was dumb luck. I don't know if you remember when Iron Man came out, it was risky. When the Avengers came out, people didn't think that was going to work. They thought that was insane. And now, it's just part of culture. It's just part of culture. But you know what? Marvel can fail too, even today. D&D can go away again. Trust me, it can. Derek, Knights of the Last Call. Steven, I have a couple bucks. If D&D tanks and goes under, can we team up and buy the brand Peter Atkinson style? Guess what? I know someone back in the 4E days. He and a group of people back when D&D was at its lowest point, they approached Hasbro and tried to buy D&D for it was either 20 or 40 million dollars. I think it was 20. They approached and tried to buy D&D for $20 million because at that point it was just a brand. Swear to God. Honest to God truth. They did not take it, but back then it was dying. It was very close to dead. Hills Mallory, comics need to be back in drugstores and department stores again, $5. Yeah, that would be great, except department stores are going out of business. Drugstores are all owned by a single chain. And by the way, there are comics and magazines, but they're all the way in the back, at least in my CVS. My CVS, I actually still like going there and like check out like the books and magazines. They're so in mine, they're like, no, all the way in the back. And they're like in this little corner by the bathroom, so you can never even see it. Cancel your D&D beyond subscriptions? Definitely. It definitely will not hurt. Wow, we have 1,400 people watching. There was another one. Here we go. Joey B, I did not forget about you. $5. A promissory estoppel? Best bet. A lot would hinge on what Dancher's position allowed him to do, e.g. was he authorized to sign contracts buying the company? I think, you're talking about, what are you talking about? Dancer's position? Are you talking about Critical Role? I'm not sure. Or are you talking about Kickstarter? I'm not sure. And if anyone's worried about what's going on and think that it's not going to go this way, just look at Magic the Gathering, okay? I am someone who's been playing Magic the Gathering since alpha and beta. I've been playing since day one. I got a 4-digit DCI, baby. Okay? That's how long I've been playing. And I don't play as much as I used to, but I still like to dabble. And, you know, they were coming out with like, what, 3 sets a year? 4 sets? You know, they would come out with, was it 2 sets and was it 2, I forgot what they're called, but, you know, like 2 stories and 3 sets. So what, they come out with like 6 sets a year, something like that. And then, you know, come up with the Commander here and there. You know, so they come out with like, what, 10 sets a year? Okay. They came out with, I think, like 52 sets last year, okay? They are trying to find what's called the very top and the very bottom of the market. They're trying as hard as they can to find how much people will spend at the very, very top and the very, very bottom. So that's what they probably are going to start doing. And that's why they want everyone to report. anything over $50,000 because they want to see what is the bottom and what is the top. How much are people willing to spend? What can they get away with? And it's ways for them to get this data very easily. You know, the other way they can get this data, they can go to Drive-Thru RPG, work out something with them, and I'm sure they can get aggregate data through them, through a deal. They have the money. I'm sure they'd be happy to sell it to them. This happens all the time. Companies sell this type of data left and right so they can get an idea of what people are spending. It's a lot easier way to get that. There's always another way. You don't have to do it the draconian way of OGL 1.1 where everyone has to sign up all their products and report everything they do to Hasborg. Oh yeah, I did it. I said it, Hasborg. Okay. Those of you who never heard, that's a term people use sometimes. I won't say that again. Hasbro. has WoTC. There, it's easier. Yes, the Goodman Games Classics modules, they're fantastic. The DCCs, I got every single one. I got them in my closet right over there. I love those things. So, wow. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to stop the stream because it just keeps growing. If you have specific questions, because I've covered so much here, please ask, because now is the time, because I don't know if I could do this for another 10 hours. Hey, Derek, I'm turning into you. Derek from Knights of Last Call does 5-hour streams. So there you go. I'm turning into Derek. I'm looking at everything here. If anyone has specific questions, I've covered a lot in the stream. And once again, this OpenDND, OpenDND.Games, please sign it. It's signed already by myself and many other people in the industry that are putting a public stance. They're publicly coming out and saying that we need to keep D&D open. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. If they want to come out with 1.1, and if they want to make it unbelievably, horribly draconian, they can. But they can't revoke 1.0a. They can try, but as far as I can tell, and unfortunately it probably will be tested in court, they can't. And the other thing is that there's so much history. There's 23 years of history. There's FAQs done by wizards. There's people who are alive who created the OGL. There's people who are alive who were there when they helped create the OGL, who were there with the intent of the OGL. There's email chains explaining what the OGL should and should not do. So if they're going to say this was not how it was intended to be used, well, guess what? We have the paper trails because it's not that long ago that we can find out what was the intent. And if they said, and they being Hasbro says, you know what, well, maybe that was the original intent, but we want to change the intent, you could have done it at any time. You didn't have to wait till now and surprise everyone, say you got a week to change over to OGL 1.1. And by the way, all those of you people who ran a Kickstarter now to fulfill it and are in the middle of paying people, too bad, you now owe us 25% or something. Oh yeah, I forgot. They said, oh yeah, we're not collecting the 25% in the year 2024. Sorry, 2023. We're collecting the year 2024. Well, guess what? A lot of people are starting Kickstarters now, and a lot of people are going to be getting money for this and next year because Kickstarters never go out on time. Moving tour. If WoTC backs down a bit, what is to stop them from trying again? The second time since D&D Essentials. They will dial it up again. Trust WoTC ever again. This is the thing. Will they try it again? Probably, but everyone's ready now. It's like they had one chance to surprise everyone, and it's gone. The surprise is out. Everyone's going to be fighting them. A lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people I know, a lot of publishers going to be fighting them. You better believe that Paizo's going to fight them, because if they say to Paizo, and they go to Paizo and they give them a sweetheart deal, and they say, you know what, Paizo, you don't need to give us 25%. You don't even need to give us 20. You don't even need to give us 15. You don't even need to give us 10. All we want is 5%. It's too much, okay? 5% from Paizo, Paizo, I will just say that they're a lovely company. I love them to death. I work with them all the time. Half my writers are from Paizo. Half the people I know are from Paizo, but they're not rolling in the dough, okay? They're not making bank, okay? They're doing this for the love of the game. That's why they do it. If they have to pay 5% of everything they make, or 10%, which is probably more realistic, of everything they make to Hasbro, first of all, they're going to have to raise all their prices by 15-20%. So guess who pays that? You do. It's going to probably put them out of business, or it's going to make them put out less product or rethink their products, or heaven forbid, come out with Pathfinder 3rd edition, which doesn't use OGL. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah, I know they've been thinking about not using OGL. Actually, that'd be great. If they don't use the OGL, then I don't need to use the OGL, which is really, really good. That's something else that's very interesting. Someone just wrote here, is the OGL still honored in China? Yeah, that's the thing, is that this law is different in every country. So it's going to get nasty because they don't really care about these things in China. You can put out with this stuff. So, and that's right. If 5% under OGL, 25% in the next update, Gypsy Rose, 100%. Right. You can just say, oh, you gave away your right to sue. Here you go. By the way, that's actually not true for the people who are signing individual deals. From what I understand, those deals are for a couple of years. So you'll get locked into a specific deal for, say, 2 years, and then you pay whatever, 5, 10, 15%, and you get certain benefits for that time. But then after 2 years or 3 years, you're going to have to sign a new deal, and they can change it. So again, it's not stable. It's not something you can count on. All right? So what are we up to? 1,300. That's a good number of live views. How many likes? A lot of likes, almost 800. Again, do like. Obviously, everyone's subscribing because I see subscriptions going crazy. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Again, I kind of did this on the spur of the moment. I thought, you know what? It's Sunday. I actually I was watching some numbers and like things were going up, and like saw people. I figured people are bored. They got nothing to do. Everyone's going crazy. Everyone wants to talk this out. So I figured, I'll start talking. Let's see what happens. Be able to get a couple hundred people, 1,300 people later. If it goes through court, I do believe a judge would slap a TRO on the publisher of OGL 1.08 content. They could. That's the problem, is that if you publish under OGL 1.0A and then they say, Hasbro's like, well, 1.1 revokes it, and then they go to court and then they say, well, in the meantime, you can't publish, you can't put anything out. All right, well, you're probably going to go out of business, okay? That's a real problem. I mean, I don't have to tell you that that's a real problem. Is that, yeah, it's like, how long can you fight? How long can you last? Paizo, here's the thing. The person who owns Paizo, Lisa Stevens, she was the #1 employee of WoTC, Wizards of the Coast. How weird is that? This is all coming. It shows you just how insanely tiny this world is in role-playing games. The very first employee of Wizards of the Coast was Lisa Stevens. Lisa Stevens then started Paizo, which has become a huge competitor to WoTC and Hasbro. When Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast, they paid Lisa Stevens a gargantuan amount of money because she was the #1 employee and had tons of stock. And she became extremely, extremely wealthy. She owns Paizo, so she has all of her money from Wizards of the Coast, from Hasbro, and then they'll use that money to fight Hasbro from doing what they're trying to do. Isn't that crazy? So thank you for explaining this in easy to understand way. An easy to understand way, Banished Lord. I hope it was easy. I went through a lot of things, and I felt like I just hit like every single damn thing I've been thinking about for the last 4 or 5 days, and I just had to get it all out. And I'm not good at writing. What am I saying? I'm good at writing. I'm not good at writing this much content this quickly, and I didn't want to do a podcast, and I'm very bad at pre-recording. I tried to pre-record this after my like 100th take. I gave up. So yeah, can you change names where required and remove OGL 1.0a? Maybe. You know who would know a lot about this is Mark Seifter, my director of game design. He would know since he wrote half the Pathfinder rules and knows all about everything in there. So it might be possible to remove OGL. It might. It's difficult. Jay McCoy, super chatted $9.99. Thank you very much. I don't know if you had a question. You send it again, I'll answer it. Sometimes that happens. I know people like super chat and they forget to actually ask the question, so I'll look for that. Let's see. What does this mean for the players who don't make third-party content and just enjoy playing at home? I said that in the beginning. That means a lot. You're like, I don't care about any of this. Well, you're going to care because if they are trying... Oh, there's Mark, by the way. He says, it'll be an endeavor that would take a lot of game design to do, but it could be done. Maybe with a crowdfunding campaign. Yes. Could you take OGL out of Pathfinder? It could be done. It would be a ton of work. Back to the question is... What was the question? What does it mean for players? As I was saying before, is that if they try to remove... they being WoTC, anything that uses OGL, that could be your game of Pathfinder. That could be your game of, well, anything that uses OGL. Anything. And if they're trying to shut down and don't give licenses to people like Foundry VTT, then Foundry VTT will not be allowed to run any 1.0a games. They will not be allowed. They will be sued and get a cease and desist by WoTC. They'll say you are no longer allowed. You can't run any of these games. And then people like me who sell content on Foundry, then we can't sell our content. Foundry can't make any money. Foundry goes out of business. Where are you going to run your games? I guess you can figure out another system, but what's to say that they're going to go out of business? So yeah, this affects everyone. What about your local game store? Well, I like going to my local game store. Well, anything that was being, run by 1.0a can't be sold at the local game store anymore. Well, that's less inventory for them. So I guess you better be used to buying all your role-playing content at Amazon, because you're not going to be able to get it locally anymore because they're not going to be able to, have it there. I saw some other questions, by the way. Hey, I got some super fans. Thank you, Nodak Dozer. Thank you for becoming a super fan. Steven, does the Star Wars RPG system fall under OGL? I've seen it on Twitter. By the way, I'm the one who started that. So here's how it works. And people are like, it does, it does, it doesn't. Okay, here's it is. So Star Wars of the Old Republic used modern D20, which was built on OGL 1 or 1.08. I forgot. I was actually trying to find the KOTOR. It doesn't actually have it. I found the rules. I found the book. I even went to the Wayback Machine and found the KOTOR website. It didn't have the page, so I couldn't find the OGL license. But if you look at any screenshots, it's based off of, well, D&D. It has strength, dexterity, charisma, intelligence, wisdom. I did it in a weird order, but yes, it has all of those stats. It has feats. It has 2-weapon fighting. It is based off D&D. So you have KOTOR, which is made, based on OGL 1.0 or 1.0a. If they revoke the 1.10a and they say 1.1 is now the new one, and now you have to start using 1.1, that means that KOTOR and anything that was using 1.0 or 1.0a now has been automatically moved into 1.1 and has to adhere to all of 1.1's rules and regulations. Now, let's just say that KOTOR, which is still being sold today, makes more than $50,000. Well, guess who's going to have to register that on the Hasbro website? What happens if it makes more than $750,000? They're going to have to register that on the Hasbro website. Well, wasn't it made by BioWare? Well, yeah, it was made by BioWare. I don't know if BioWare still has the license or if Disney has the license. Either way, BioWare's not a small company either, by the way. So it was probably a Disney license. So, yeah, I know it's far-fetched. Is Disney really going to give a perpetual license to all their stuff to Hasbro? No, they're not. And right, was Star Wars D20 literally meant to be and not used OGL was a separate deal with WoTC? I don't know. I told you I was trying to find it. Actually, Owen Casey Stevens worked on Star Wars. He would know. I don't know if Owen's in the chat, but if you are Owen, you would know, and actually Mark, you might know too. If it is, but I believe it is under OGL because it's based off a modern D20 and modern D20 is based off OGL. So there you go. So would they actually? Yeah. What about fan main systems like Star Wars 5e? Free fan main game? Yeah, it's under OGL. If you're using 5e, if you're using any of that stuff, then it's under OGL. You don't have to include the OGL. Well, let me rephrase that. You're supposed to always include the OGL. Okay? And if you don't, then you're supposed to. And it might be assumed, especially they can say, well, it is. Then, yeah, I mean, they would not... Even though I was thinking, and I'm the one who put up all this posts in this Twitter and saying, oh, it'd be great. Disney's going to go after them. They're not going to go after them. They will definitely strike a deal, blah, blah, blah. Things like that. So who donated $12? Oh, why not TRO has Hasbro to stop 1.1 to the litigation? When on a TRO Hasbro to stop 1.1 until litigation. Yes, you can. That's the problem, is that let's say we're all going to fight them. Well, they can say in the meantime, while it goes through the court systems, you can't publish anything using 1.0a. Okay, fine. I'll have to come up with a new system. But what about my Kickstarter? What about all this content? What about the tens of thousands of dollars of art I've already purchased? What about all the content I've written? What about all the layout and the months and months and thousands of hours of work that I've already gone through? What happens then? I don't know. That's the problem, is that you probably go out of business in the meantime. Creative Burst. Fun fact, hey, you did what I do. They're making a remake of Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah, that's what I heard. And so if they're doing a remake of Knights of the Old Republic and they're going to be using OGL 1.0a, unless they completely redo it, they're going to owe money. Unless they come out with a separate deal, which they will. There's no way. And these companies are so big, they'll come out with a deal. And they're probably not going to pay a damn thing to Hasbro. Jay McCoy, $9.99. 1, is there a main community member who's coordinating effective and meaningful response? 2, is there a legal fund war chest which folks can contribute to, which accountability? Kind of. Is there one community member's coordinating response? Kind of me. I'm kind of becoming the tip of the spear because I got the original leak and I've been talking to a heck of a lot of people. The other thing is this OpenDND Games site. That's something you should also sign up for. As for a legal defense fund, not yet. That's all I'm going to say about that, but we're all talking. There's a lot of us talking, okay? So there's a lot of lawyers. Well, there's not a lot, but there's lawyers who are talking to each other and taking care of this and getting ready. Yeah, what about the One Ring 5e? Yeah, I know. I'm the one who tweeted that too. The token estate, which is, I don't know, one of the most litigious things on planet Earth. Oh my God, there's zero chance they'll give Hasbro any aspect of Lord of the Rings. Zero. Nothing. Zip. Nada. So that's not even coming out yet. That's a pre-order. So can they just say, oh, here, you got to sign 1.1 and Lord of the Rings? Oh, well, too bad. You can't come out. Oh my God. Like, you think Free League's really going to deal with that? No, they're not. Yeah, Paizo. Are they going to file a motion to suppress OGL 1.1 until it's been litigated? Right now, our biggest ally and our savior will probably be Paizo, because Paizo has a couple of options. Paizo can either sign 1.1 using a custom deal. They can sell to WoTC. I know that sounds insane. I wouldn't be surprised if WoTC tries to buy them. Why not? They can't be that expensive. Okay, Paizo's not that big, and WoTC's a big company. It would definitely be worth it because they would get all their people. I mean, there's a lot. They would get a lot of stuff. But here is the thing: Lisa Stevens. There's probably and Vic. There's almost a 0% chance that they will sell. I'm telling you that right now. They're not going to sell. So that means that Paizo is going to be alive and well, and they're going to try very hard to fight this. And the good news is Lisa Stevens is worth many, many millions of dollars. So they have the power, if necessary, to fight this. I don't think Paizo has that much money comparatively, but Lisa Stevens is very wealthy. And let's see. I got something else. The new Dune RPG is based on OGL. Yeah, everything's based on OGL. That's the thing. Like, not everything, but a lot of your favorite books are based on OGL. And if you're not sure, just take your book, open it up, go to the end. First, you can see it on the front, but you can go to the page and just look at the back and see if there's a full page like here that says Open Game License, okay? If it has it, then voila, you have a book that's based on OGL. Now, I know a lot of people that are like right now going through their books, especially if they're writing something for 5e that doesn't use any 5e material. They can take their book and take out everything that has a 5e in there. So you can just take it out. For me, it's not so easy because I put out books for Pathfinder and I put out books for 5e. My 5e books, I could probably take out whatever I have in there and make it non-OGL. It's not easy, but it can be done. Can I do it with my Pathfinder books? No, because Pathfinder's part of 1.0a. So it's part of the OGL. It's impossible. I have to put it in there. So that's a problem. Silent Night UK. £5. Can game mechanics be part of the OGL? No, game mechanics are not part of the OGL. So I cannot. Actually, I'll bring this back up. Oh, not this one. This one. Wait, is this the one? Here we go. Yes. If I distribute material as open game content but didn't affix it, it says here, can items return, blah, blah. Does this mean that anyone can take open game content I wrote, distribute it for free, and put it in a product? Yes. So if you have game mechanics in your book, can I take it and put it in my book as long as I give you copyright? Yes. That is the up and downside to OGL, is that anything I publish, so you can take my monsters and put them in your book. You can. Totally legal, and there's nothing I can do about it. And can you take lore, though? Can you take the lore? No, you can't take the lore. Okay, that's part of private content. It's part of protected IP. So I have in the beginning of every book what's open content and what's not. And I describe what is open and what you can use and what is closed. And by the way, you can't say, oh, everything's closed, then you're not allowed to do it. You could say it, but it won't hold up in court because game mechanics can't be, you can't make that part of the IP. You can use the names, though. Like if I come up with a unique name like Beholder or Oh, I don't know. Mind Flare? Sure. Those you can't use. But you know what? I can come up with something, call it a eye tyrant. That's allowed. Okay, everyone knows it's a beholder, but I can call it eye tyrant. There's nothing they can do about it. So Dryad Husk, yes, that's the one that was used. That was from my book, and Paizo used it, and I said thank you. Cool. I was like, that was awesome. You guys used something from my own book because they liked it so much. So, and they were nice and told me about it ahead of time. They didn't have to. And it just was there. I wouldn't be surprised if I open up another Paizo book one day and see something from some of my books. I'm not being snotty, but you know, it's just I know a lot of people there, and if they see something like, hey, why not? You know, they use Cthulhu monsters all the time. Hey, folks, not related D20. I've heard that they will unauthorize 1.0a. How can this impact completely non-D20 games like Traveler if they use and the SRD if they use it? Again, if they unauthorized 1.0a, it's not so much that they could affect the games directly, it's that if they try to affect the tools that publish and allow people to play, such as being online or using a VTT or distributing through Kickstarter or distributing through DriveThruRPG or creating tool sets online, suddenly it's very, very hard for you to get any traction because you don't have the ability to get your content online. You can't find people to play with. And if you can't find people to play with, your game's not going to succeed and it's going to eventually die. So that's the problem, is that if you are able to, link to share for OpenDND. Yep, hold on. Go back to that one. There we go. Are your books a sub-license of Pathfinder's OGL? No. It is a sub-license. It's not a sub-license. I use the Pathfinder OGL. Does that give you a little protection? No. It gives me no protection. No one gets protection. According to what they're trying to do is 1.1 will invalidate 1.0a, which means in theory I have to use 1.1, even though I published Pathfinder books. Obviously my 5e books would be subject to that, but nope, they would want that, and they would want it from Pathfinder and anyone else. One Ring, they're using, not One Ring, Lords of the Rings, they're using 5e. Yep, they got to use it. Everyone. World of Warcraft, yep. Disney, KOTOR, yep. Everyone. They would immediately move over. Now again, I said this before, can they uphold this? Probably not. Every lawyer I've spoken to and everyone I've been talking to saying it's going to be very, very, very hard with 23 years of information and precedent out there. It's going to be damn hard for them to revoke it. Could non-OGL combat join like Steve Jackson Games? I don't mean join. Join what? I'm not exactly sure what you mean join. Oh yeah, Traveler's been around for 40 years. Yeah, Traveler, I think it's totally safe because Traveler uses its own system. There's a lot of things. Yeah, World of Darkness uses its own system. Anything that uses its own system is more or less safe. But the problem is that if the VTTs disappear, and then you can only play World of Darkness on D&D Beyond or whatever they're going to call their new VTT, well, now you're paying Hasbro to play on their VTT your third-party game, which is what they're going to try to want to do. Ooh, I got, what is that? NOK, is that, I don't know what that is. Hey, Harold, one of the reasons Games Workshop did change many of the names of the races in 40K was copyright reasons. They did try to copyright Space Marines when they failed, so they went to Aptivus Artitus instead. Yeah, that's very common, is that, by the way, Games Workshop, they are very litigious, and they make sure that no one can do anything. They can't even, you want to print your own minis, they're going to take you down, baby. They're very, very, very protective. And that is very common, is that you try to go out and come out with your own names so that you can't copyright things like Space Marines because it's too generic. So you came up with something well, not as generic, so that it's a copyrightable item. That's very common. They do that all the time. In fact, that's how they did it with Magic the Gathering. Is that Magic the Gathering decided to come out with planeswalkers because they're people that they can actually latch on to for books and properties because they need heroes. The other thing that they did is that the names of these people, like Jason stuff, they could copyright, and that they actually had people in the world, because you can't copyright blue mana and white mana. It's just too generic. It's not possible. And they use a lot of generic fantasy terms in Magic. So they started to create their own world. They created their own universes. They created their own, planes, and that they were able to protect and then build up an IP around the world of Magic the Gathering. So that's how you do it, by the way. Sorry I didn't answer your question about wait, who was that who wrote a question, because I wasn't sure what you were referring to. Right, don't forget, yes, the original D&D had to change Hobbit to Halfling. That's correct. Also, the original D&D had Cthulhu, which I did say was open source, but they were using Cthulhu that was owned by the Cthulhu estate, and that had to come out of was the Fiend Folio, and that did come out later because they were using things that were copyrightable. So there we go. This has been going on a long time, but it looks like no one wants to leave. So 900 likes, and we're down to only 1,200 viewers. But once again, OpenDND.game. I guess everyone. Oh yeah, deities and demigods. I don't know. I said Fiend Folio. Sorry. You're right. And I have my copy. Oh look. Oh no, it's not just no. Well, it's not. It's sorry. It's my old monster manual. I got my old monster. Look at this thing. It's still so old. Look at this. I even have my old handwriting in it when I was a little kid. Oh, it's so cute. This thing, man. Oh, I still look at it. It's so freaking great. I love this thing. So. Oh, I saw a question. Can we rename Beholder as Ophium? Is the biblical accurate wheel angel a much cooler design than original Beholder? Yeah, you can. I do that all the time. I rename things. So yeah, people rename things all the time. In fact, right now, because of various reasons, they renamed troglodytes in Pathfinder to Zolgaths. And they're renaming things in Pathfinder to make them less connected to Dungeons and Dragons. So that's very good. Let's see. Oh, we got almost 1,000 likes. That's crazy, by the way. By the way, the biblical angels, the ones with all the feathers and eyes, that is an Eldamon that you can collect in Battlezoo Eldamon. Yep, that's right. You could actually get a biblically accurate angel. I have the art. It is weird, man. Even I was like, should we really make a biblically accurate angel? But what the hell? Heroes of Might and Magic 3 has beholders. There's a lot of things that have beholders in them. You can make a beholder. You can make it look like a beholder. You just can't. I can't show the art mark. I can't. Well, maybe I can. But anyhow, wait, you lost my stream of thought, Mark. You interrupted me. Oh yeah, the beholders. Yeah, you call them eye tyrants. I've seen that 100 times. Is that everyone calls them eye tyrants? That's like the name out there. Let's see. Wait, I'm going to show our biblically accurate angels. They're weird as hell. In the meantime. Wow, they've been doing this stream for 2 hours plus, and we still have. Well, it's going down now because I think 2 hours is probably a lot of people's limit. So, and even I am getting a little tired and have to have dinner soon. But I do want to thank everyone who joined me, and if you have questions, I will stay on for a little bit longer while I am trying to find out. Oh, here we go. What is your honest opinion? You think long-term will be the end of TTRPG contests? Or you think there'll be an honest chance this being reversed? Content. I don't know. I think it comes down to one thing. It depends. Is Hasbro trying to are they going to really try to revoke 1.0A? Or are they going to back down and make it that people have to sign or can sign to 1.1, and they're going to make D&D 6th edition so awesome and so great that everyone will move over to 1.1? You tell me. I unfortunately don't like those odds, and I have a feeling we're going to be in for a fight. I have no idea. DM Dave, hey man. I've spoken to you indirectly many a time, but I have not spoken with you directly. And I do subscribe to your, I have all your books right here. Here we go. Look, I got Broadsword. I got everyone. Everyone I got everyone, buddy. I got it all here, man. I'm a fan of everybody. Why not just create an entire new system that is a 5e clone with everything renamed? Would it work with all the existing 5e and the OGL? I've already heard rumors. Yes, you can. In fact, there's probably no one, well, not no one. There's very few people in this world who can probably do this as well as even myself, because Mark Seifter works for me, and Mark wrote Pathfinder 2nd Edition and has created many, many game systems. I also know other people like Owen Casey Stevens, who wrote Starfinder, and many other people who have written systems. I know the people who are also work for me who wrote Level Up. I have a lot of people who work with me who have written entire systems from scratch. The problem is, if you write a system, first of all, it's a gargantuan amount of work. It requires a huge amount of money. And what happens if you then try to put it up on Kickstarter and Kickstarter decides to take it down? Then what? Where are you going to get your money? You need to have seed money to make this. It's going to be very hard to do that. So, by the way, you say here is that 1.0A does not have irrevocable in its wording, so it is revocable. We cover that if you go to my video. Oh, I'm out of focus. There we go. If you go to my video on my channel where we sit down with a contract lawyer, he goes through, does it need to say revocable, irrevocable to make it irrevocable? The answer is no, it does not need to say that. There's concepts of the law. I don't know it. I'm not a lawyer, but he went through and explained that just because it says it doesn't mean it's assumed. Also, and here's what's very important, the way that Hasbro and WoTC have conducted themselves and conducted business using the OGL for the last 23 years is super, super duper key. That will determine pretty much whether or not it's revocable. Because if they don't like things, they could have made changes. If they wanted to update it, they could have done it at any time. There was a lot of ways that this could have been done. Let's see. There's a few more questions. Sorry, I'm just scrolling up because there's a lot of people writing things. Dangerous Journeys. Yep, Level Up. DM Toolbox. Yeah. The guys who wrote, pretty much the main guys who wrote, let's see. Where's my 5e book? Sorry. Here we go. Yep. William, who wrote, here's my 5e version. William and Paul, they wrote a lot of Level Up, and they write for me as well. So we all know each other. It's a very small community. Princess Lucy, were you talking about losing BTTs? What about the old shelf hosting approach? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you can do it, but then we'll be fractured, okay? That's the problem. Is like, you can, in fact, they even say, it's like, oh, you want to print books? Go right ahead. You can print books all you want. That's what 1.1. But everything else, digital, nope, you're not allowed to do. Nothing else is allowed. Nothing else. You can do books all you want. Yeah, because I already went through it. You're not going to be, it's impossible. You'll never be able to sell a book with 60% going to the people selling the book and a distributor, and then 25% going to WoTC, and then you have to make the book. So you make $1 on every book, if that. Yeah, good luck with that. Of course they'll let you sell books, because they don't care. No one's going to do it. Does the fact that they don't carry forward the GSL for 5e hurt their case? Yep, that's something else. I totally forgot. Very good point, Lestracom, is that they can say, well, if the GSL was so successful, why did you go back to the OGL? There you go. And Hasbro's destroy branding of their own properties, Milton Bradley, Parker Brothers, Avalon Hill, over the years, over Axis and Allies. Yep. Yeah. Create and publish open source. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about an open source game, and I would totally love that. And the books are priced too high. I actually disagree with you. I know books are going to 50, 60 bucks now. 60 bucks for the amount of content you get is not that expensive, because you get a lot for that much content, especially if people who do artwork. And by the way, these books here, this Monster Manual, my first edition, was $9.99 back in the 70s. $9.99. $9.99. Guess what? That was 50 bucks. Okay, so the prices have kind of been the same. John Harrison, $5 Australian. How do we tank Hasbro's share price and let them know it's all because of the OGL? We can't. But what we can do is we keep yelling and screaming, and they start writing articles in IGN, and I believe Rolling Stone's going to write one soon, and there's going to be follow-up articles on Gizmodo, and MSN just did an article, and PBS did an article, and you keep having articles, and guess what? Normal people are going to, and people that are shareholders that have big pockets and lots of stake are going to start yelling and saying, what's going on? It looks like they're going to start yelling at Hasbro and say, what's going on? It looks like you're going to destroy the brand. And why are you doing that? Now it's a catch-22, because those people want to make money. So they might look at the OGL 1.1, and some of these people might say, this is great. Well, let's make it 30%. That's industry standard. Why are you just doing 25%? Because they might think of it short-term and just want money. And that's unfortunately something they might be thinking is like, well, in the short term, we might destroy our brand, but if we corner the market and make everyone go through us, who cares? Because in the long term, we'll make a mint. Michael is writing, what system we device to go over to for 5e players not solved and wanting to do something and breaking the community? Go to Pathfinder or anything else. I love Pathfinder, man. I'm unbiased on that. It's my favorite system. I think it's beautifully written. I think it is incredibly elegant. It is similar enough in many ways to D&D. There's a lot of other systems out there. There's too many to name, but there's a lot out there. What do you think Critical Role is going to do? I think Critical Role is going to have their own contract with their own information, and they're able to do anything they want because they're Critical Role. Princess Lucy, it's those sort of investors driving up Hasbro's stock right now. Looks like investors who don't understand the industry. Some investors understand the industry. That's the one good news, is that a lot of people who are investors and run these companies are my age, and some of them are gamers, so they do understand that. But everyone, and remember, Bank of America downgraded Hasbro's stock over Magic, and it hurt, and it's still going down. But to be fair, everyone's stock has gone down, and in fact, Amazon and others have been down like 50% from the last year. Here we go. Heather Sawyer, $5. Will this change affect reprints of already published works? It could. Yep. If you reprint it, then you would be under OGL 1.1, and then you would have to report it to Hasbro because you're now under 1.1 if this goes through. So yes, basically, if you make anything going forward, let's just say it's switched over, say January 13th, and now it's 1.1. If you make anything using OGL, whether it's new or a reprint of something old, yes, you have to, from the way I read it, you have to register, and you do have to let them know what's going on. Oh, the angel. Sorry, I forgot about the angel. I actually have it ready to go. Hold on. Everyone's like, where's the angel? Oh, Mark, you've been writing me? Oh, Mark gave me the angel, sorry. Let me open it. Oh, you're going to show... Mark, you have the baby angel. I'm going to show the real angel. I'm going to show the nasty angel. Okay, hold on. Let me change this 1 second. Hold on, keep asking questions while I look for my angel, because I have 10,000 things on my desktop and I can't find it. I know this is riveting as I'm going here. Here we go. There we go. Fiery Angel. There you go. So that is what the Eldamon Fiery Angel looks like. That is the fully evolved form, and you two can summon that monstrosity to fight for you. So if you like that, you go to battlezoo.com and pre-order Battlezoo Eldamon, and we're going to be talking about that a lot. And Battlezoo Eldamon is going to be awesome. So I'll go back and switch that back to the OpenDND picture. There you go. I have a few more questions. Let's see. No one seems to want to end this. I got so many. Critical Role, Hasbro, lawyers. Heather, $5. Will this change affect? Oh, you already did that. Here we go. Up. Let me go to that one. Third-party content creators. Wait. Oh, I keep scrolling away. Oh my god, I got too many things. Here we go. Jacob, 100 Noka, whatever that is. If third-party content publishers just release their monsters, races, classes, extra under Creative Commons license, official content would be dwarfed in size and the OGL would become irrelevant. You are correct. However, the problem with Creative Commons is that, and I can't emphasize this enough, I believe what Hasbro is trying to do is stifle the channels and stifle things like Kickstarter and so forth. And if you stifle those channels, then how are you going to get it out? If you stifle VTTs, how are people going to play it? If you stifle content creation tools, how are people going to do that? And yes, I know they can say, well, it's not OGL. Okay, well, they can still sue you. Anyone can sue anyone for any reason. So there you go. Errol Lobo, $1. Thanks. Joey B, $5. Revocation equals unilateral. I need my glasses. Unilateral termination. OGL allows termination only for breach. Hard time arguing it's revocable given it has a termination section in OGL. Correct, because there is a section explaining how the OGL can be revoked from an individual. And on top of that, you have 30 days to respond and fix it. So if you publish something and Hasbro, WoTC doesn't like what you published under OGL 1.1, they can send you a letter and you have 30 days to fix it. Oh, and NOK is Norwegian krona. Cool. I learned something new. And even if they change this point, the mere idea was enough for me to adopt WoTC. You know, I know that's the problem, though, is that us players are hardcore, the whales, as we call ourselves. We are the main people who will yell and scream. But unfortunately, I hate to say it, that hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people don't know about this, don't care about this, and just want to buy D&D for their kids. And that's going to happen. So there we go. I'm getting a lot of people sending me things on Discord. So, all right. I say 2.5 hours is probably even my limit, even though I know people want me to do this forever. I will probably do this more now that I know it's a success. If I had 50 people here, I probably wouldn't do it as often. 1,000 people means I'm going to keep doing this. I'll leave it at that. Roll for Combat. Another question. Foundry VTT hosted by users locally. Have them no power over control system, blah, blah, blah. You're completely right. If you make it like a Tor client so that everyone is hosting their own version of Foundry, you're right. But Foundry actually is owned by a company, and it does require support. And the problem with that is that you need people and technical expertise to keep a VTT up and running. You just do. So that's the problem, is that it might work for a little while, but eventually it will go down. And Foundry is beautiful and elegant and gorgeous and very complex. And it is unbelievably difficult to keep that thing up and running. So it's not going to be that simple, unfortunately. Knights of Last Call, $2. That's the real hard truth. I don't know what you're talking about, Derek. Something's hard and something's real. That's all I know. Roll for comment. It's been 30 days. Let's see. Since it's been 30 days in the OGL 1.0A, we're enforcing 2 weeks signing for 1.1. Is that a breach? No, that is not a breach, because these people were given contracts, and the contracts, they can say you have 1 minute to sign it or 2 years. They were basically given individual contracts that said, here's OGL 1.1. There's other provisions in there, because these were the top people. They were given to the people who they considered top earners and top publishers. I was not one of them, so I don't have an NDA. And by the way, if things become public, they're not covered by NDA anymore because they're public. So that's something else that's very important to keep in mind. Foundry. I am just using Foundry as an example, but it could be very simple. I think Roll20 might have a deal with WoTC, so they were actually going to be okay. But I'm using Foundry because Foundry doesn't have a deal with WoTC yet, and anyone who doesn't have a deal with WoTC will probably, they'll try to put out of business, or they're going to force them to go to OGL 1.1 or something like that. Oh, act as a gaming. I came for 1.0A and found access in Allies resources. That's kind of weird. Knights of the Last Call lag. Most folks playing D&D don't know and don't care. That's correct. Most people do not care, and they never will. This is too esoteric and strange for them, and it'll never be anything important. And I say, unfortunately, if every single one of these books behind me of third-party systems went away, and the only books I had left were those books in the corner there, I don't know if you could see them, but those are my D&D books, and that was it on my shelf, unfortunately, most people wouldn't know or care, and that's the hard truth. And it'll put a lot of people out of business. It'll put a lot of people who dedicated their lives to this out of business. It'll put a lot of stores that sell these books, much like there used to be comic book stores all over the place. They're either going to switch and no longer sell books or role-playing supplements, and they're only going to sell board games and pop vinyls, and that's it. And the only thing out there is going to be Magic Gathering was a Freudian slip. The only thing out there is going to be Dungeons and Dragons, and that's kind of it. And anyone who is an official D&D partner, and it'll become kind of a very gated, scary system. But over time, people will forget about it. The same way that I was there when Horse Armor first came out. And remember, when Horse Armor first came out, people went crazy. People were like, why? Oh, why would anyone ever want to spend money for armor for their horse? And people went crazy for it. It was so funny at that time. Nowadays, microtransactions, totally normal. No one thinks one thing of them. Armor for a horse? Sure. Why not? Every single thing that might seem weird at one point can become commonplace if you don't speak up. And that's why I'm kind of doing this, is because if you do not speak up and let Hasbro and WoTC know what's going on, this can go, we can all lose all these things. And unfortunately, in 10, 20 years, no one will even know. And they'll be like, yeah, there used to be this thing called Kobo Press that put out this amazing product, and there was people like Roll for Combat and Mage Hand, and they came out with all these awesome, crazy books. And yeah, they're gone. You can't find them anymore because they were all put out of business. And if you want to find stuff, I guess you go on DM's Guild, and maybe you'll find something cool there, or you go onto the OneD&D platform, which will probably have some cool 3D models and things like that. And sure, you can put things up there as a hobbyist and maybe make a couple of bucks, but you'll never be able to make a living off of it. At best, you'll have to get a job at WoTC, and that's about it. So on that somber note, I think I might have to end this just because I do have to get dinner, and I actually have to play my Pathfinder game in an hour. And that's my weekly Pathfinder game for our not Agents of Edgewatch, but also we do Three Ring Adventure, actual play podcast. If you want to check that up at rollforcombat.com. Thank you, everyone. If you want to see us again, I'll be doing this with Mark on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be talking probably more about this. Oh, Princess Lucy, thank you, $2. All required for evil to win is for good to do nothing. That is correct. And I have a feeling that people have been really amped up and going crazy, but you got to keep it up. It's going to be hard. I know. It's like in a week or two, people are going to probably move on to something else. And that's probably what WoTC's hoping. I imagine they're going to wait a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and then maybe release something. Who knows? Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being part of the stream. Thanks for joining the channel. Got a lot of people. Thank you for learning who we are, because we've actually been around for 5.5 years. I'm kind of quiet. We're big in the Pathfinder space. We're kind of quiet in the 5e space, but we do 5e content, and it's really good. In fact, we've got nothing but 5-star reviews for the few reviews we got for our 5e content. They loved our books, and some of them are even on Amazon. If you don't want to buy it through me, go through Amazon or drive through as well. Oh, Christian West, $5. Hey, boss. TBH, your stuff doesn't look like my flavor, but your stream is freaking great. Throw you through bones. Thank you so much. Yeah, our stuff isn't super grim darky, and it's not quite as... There's a lot of that on the market, so my stuff is a little bit more fun and flavorful, but the art is fun and flavorful. Don't get me wrong. We actually are pretty... There's some pretty nasty stuff in there. And we also have, I forgot to tell you, in Battles of Bestiary, there's an entire system for monster parts. So if you like Monster Hunter and you want to know ways to make monsters into weapons and armor and gear very quickly and very easily with an infinite number of combinations, you can. And it works for 5e, and it works for Pathfinder. And it's elegant and beautiful and fast. That was our big thing. There's other monster part systems out there that are incredibly complex. Our system is fast, and it works for anything. It even works for your homebrewed monster. Anything. So keep subscribing, keep up the fight, join OpenDND Games, and check us out, and I will do this again in the very near future. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to go get dinner.